Dave Chappelle is one of the most offensive, outrageous, and funniest comedians today, and the dude just dropped a nuke onto the culture war with a Netflix special that may be one of the funniest and most offensive things I've seen in a long time. Dave Chappelle is a legend. I love this man. I grew up watching Chappelle's show. I grew up watching George Carlin, and more recently, Ricky Gervais, calling out all of the insanity. Ricky Gervais makes fun of Twitter. Dave Chappelle went so hard on the culture war. It was impressive. Now look, Joe Rogan too. I was at a Joe Rogan show last year, and Joe did an amazing job of calling out insanity and making fun of everybody. And that's what it's supposed to be. You give no free passes. But I gotta say, boy, did Dave Chappelle push that line. And if I didn't know better, I would assume Dave Chappelle was trying to provoke a reaction on purpose. Seriously. He jokes about racism. He uses homophobic and racial slurs. He jokes about banging kids. Like, wow. Some of the jokes he did, I wasn't laughing. Not all of them. I was just like, wow. The dude, in my opinion, was trying to make sure they heard him. The special is called Sticks and Stones. My assumption is that he's literally trying to say, words will never hurt me. Like, I'm going to tell a joke. He rags on everybody. He rags on poor white people on heroin. And it was great. It was really, really good how he did it. And he talks about how, he sees poor white people and himself being poor. And then he makes a joke that it's just that white people don't think they're supposed to be poor. But it's a joke. And so he's an equal opportunity offender. And it was absolutely fantastic. So here's the thing. When this story started coming out, boy, are they mad at this guy. This Vice article went around yesterday. You can definitely skip Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special, Sticks and Stones. The comedian doubles down on misogyny and transphobia in both the special and the hidden bonus scene that follows. Don't skip it. Go see it. If you haven't already watched it, you gotta see it because it is hilarious. And it is a callback to what comedy is supposed to be about. Some of it is intentionally, in my opinion, provocative and shocking because comedians used to do that. Sarah Silverman did that. And she got to reap what she has sown with her politics. She got fired from a job because of a joke she made like 12 years ago. Chappelle opens the segment by, oh man, I just can't stress how amazing it is. He says he's gonna do an impression. And he goes like this. He goes, duh, I'm gonna look into your past and find out something you did wrong, like 12 years ago, and then try and take everything away from you. And he goes, who is that? Who's that an impression of? And they yell Trump. It's amazing. When has Trump ever said that? I'm gonna dig into your past and take away everything you've ever accomplished, everything you own? Trump's never said it, but that's what they yelled. Parroting mindlessly, bleating like sheep, bah, Trump. That's what they were yelling. And then he says, that's you. And he says, that's how you sound to me. And I just want to give that man a standing ovation. Because this is what we've all been saying. Look, man, in the real world, I don't like, homophobia, transphobia. But George Carlin said it best. Context matters. It's the person behind the words. I know Dave Chappelle doesn't mean these things, and he makes an amazing point about Kevin Hart. You gotta see this, man. You gotta see this special. So Kevin Hart gets booted from the Oscars. Or they were saying you better apologize to the gay community because Kevin Hart 10 years ago or whatever made jokes where he said if he saw his son, showing any kind of sign that he was, effeminate or gay, that Kevin Hart would smash a dollhouse over his head. And then Dave Chappelle says, how I know he was joking? You'd have to buy the kid a dollhouse in order to smash it over his head in the first place. Because he's joking. It doesn't make sense. That's the point. It was meant to be offensive, over the top, and silly. But of course, Vice can't help themselves. But you know what, man? Seeing this Dave Chappelle special, with everything going on in the culture war, with cancel culture, with outrage, and I gotta admit, with what they're trying to do to the event I'm sponsoring in Philly, it reminds me of that scene in Infinity War. And you got what are they called? The Outriders, those weird alien things that are trying to claw through the force field in Wakanda. And then all of a sudden, Thor he lands, and he jumps in the air with the axe, lightning from his eyes, and he slams into the ground, and the explosion wipes out, and that's what it feels like. Hearing Dave Chappelle come up, and he doesn't care. He doesn't. He even joked about how, he drags Jussie Smollett so hard, and he talked about how he was at an event, and a journalist writes down these jokes, and he thought he was done. He talks about all this stuff. Well, let's see what Vice has to say, because I'm singing its praises. You definitely got to see this. I will stress this point too. Netflix going full steam with a special this offensive. Dave Chappelle doesn't just say the F word, which I can't say on YouTube. He screams it several times. And it's not that I like that he's screaming that word trying to be offensive. It's that he's going over the top to make a point. And that's why it's funny. Because he doesn't really think bad things about these people. He's just trying to be shocking, provocative, and outrageous. That's what comedy is about. Not always, but some comedy. It does this. Well, let's see what the party poopers over at Vice have to say. They write, Dave Chappelle made a return to Netflix Monday with a new stand-up special, Sticks and Stones. Fans quickly realized that if you watch until the very end, the special has a secret epilogue called The Punchline, where Chappelle answers questions from audience members who went to his separate Dave Chappelle on Broadway stand-up show last July. The special takes the comic's anti-wokeness shtick, yes, to a new level. And the whole thing is repetitive and exhausting enough that it's a slog to even make it to the Q&A. Do you know that Amy Schumer had a special that was panned? Like everyone, hey, it was gross. I'm willing to bet this one's going to be praised by the audience. I'm willing to bet that regular people are going to cheer for this. You know why? They cheer for Joe Rogan. They cheer for Ricky Gervais. These crazy weirdos, the woke, far left, regressive, whatever, only get by on your silence. And that's a fact. These activists, this insanity, this cancel culture, they get by because liberals won't speak up. But when Dave Chappelle comes in, Joe Rogan, Ricky Gervais, and they make jokes and they laugh, then liberals are finally willing to stand up and laugh too. So this is open season, man. I'm seeing these posts, people saying, Dave Chappelle, Thor with that hammer, just slamming it into the ground. And, some people have said, but we'll see. I'll reserve, we'll see what happens. Some people have said, don't be surprised if you start seeing more comedians and late night hosts back up Chappelle, because Chappelle is truly funny. Chappelle is truly a legend. Chappelle's show is amazing. He doesn't spare anybody. He makes fun of everybody. Good. He should. He should make fun of me. He makes fun of Asians. He does a Chinese stereotype and jokes about it. Okay. I understand I'm not 100% Asian and I'm not Chinese, but me personally, I don't care if he makes fun of the Asian community. Me personally, again, I know people are going to get rag on me saying, but you're passing and all that stupid woke nonsense. Nah, man. I have family members that, his stereotype impacts, and it's funny. I'll tell you this. I love this story. I was talking to somebody about my mom, who is half Korean, and how she does math tutorial videos on YouTube. And they said, why am I not surprised your Korean mom makes math tutorial videos? And I started laughing. And I thought it was so funny, I immediately texted my mom, to which she started laughing as well. Because it's not that we think because it's a joke. It's silly. It's meant to be funny. It's not meant to hurt. It's meant to just be like, of all the things you can do, you choose the stereotype. So we laugh about it. We find it funny. And Dave Chappelle, he's willing to make those jokes too. And he talks about how his wife is Asian. And she's like, I don't like that joke. And then he jokes. He only brings it up when they're fighting. It's an amazing, offensive, but great comedy set, reminiscent of George Carlin. Dave Chappelle is incredible, and I have tremendous respect for this man. They go on, look, they're so angry. Look at this. He also found time to defend fellow controversial comedians Kevin Hart and Louis C.K., painting them as victims of an overzealous call-out culture. Yes! He defends Louis C.K. It was amazing. It was amazing. Ah, man, Dave Chappelle. Look, when I was a teenager watching Chappelle's show, we understood it was comedy. And he makes fun of white people. He makes fun of the history of the U.S. He makes fun of the founding fathers. And I get it. It's a joke. This is a guy who can bring you down, he can bring you to his level and say something that will offend them. You'll laugh at and offend you, and you will laugh at it because that's comedy. It's such a refreshing thing to see this, man. You really, really got to watch this. Look at this. Check this out. He says that this is amazing. By the time the Q&A plays at the end of the special, Chappelle has already shown his unapologetic approach to courting controversy. His answers put that into even starker view. He says that a white woman left one of his practice sets for the special at the Punchline Comedy Club, telling him, I'm sorry, I was raped. Chappelle says he replied with, it's not your fault you were raped, but it's not my fault either. Ta-ta, bitch. Whoa. To which the audience laughs raucously, as though that were a real punchline. It was. That's the point. For one, he's saying, you can't make me do something. You will not dictate what he's allowed to say. And it's nothing on him if he wants to make a joke and you're offended by it. The joke was, he's offensive, he's going over the top, and that's where he's taking it. Of course, in the real world, he's standing, he's at a dinner with his friends and family. Someone said that he wouldn't say ta-ta. No, it's a show. And if you want to come in and throw your offensive whatever at him, he's going to tell you to buzz off because it's a show. Look at this. He then followed the story about sparking an unlikely friendship with a trans woman who says he says was laughing the hardest out of anyone at the trans jokes in his practice set. The strange story of camaraderie seemed to highlight the common accusation that Chappelle is only interested in repairing his relationship with marginalized groups if he doesn't have to change anything about himself. And you know what? He doesn't have to. He doesn't. I don't care. I don't care if he offends me when he wants to make a joke about Asian people. It doesn't offend me. I'm offended by very little. But if he wants to make an offensive joke, there were some things. He joked about banging kids. And I'm like, whoa. Am I going to demand his cancellation? No, I'm going to applaud his bravery in the face of cancel culture. He is, in my opinion, daring them. Come at me, bro. Come at me. Because he doesn't care. I don't know, man. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, here's something else that's really interesting. We can rag on Vice all day for being on the wrong side of history. But we've got this story from the Daily Beast, which is really interesting as well. Because the Daily Beast tends to play to the woke left. Not completely, but often. They've got some writers that write fake nonsense, targeting conservatives, and moderates, and lying. They publish like ridiculous lies, like Huffington Post does. Dave Chappelle calls Michael Jackson rape accusers liars, defends Louis C.K. and Kevin Hart. But the story can't quite get to the point that Vice did, because I think the Daily Beast recognizes, guess what? People like Dave Chappelle. People think he's funny, and people like his offensive style of comedy. The only reason Vice gets by on this trash is because liberals don't speak up. Well, guess what? I speak up. And you know what they do? They smear me, they insult me. That's the game they play. And so long as moderate liberals refuse to speak up, they get away with this. But you know what? The Daily Beast recognizes they go through all of the really offensive things, but they dance the line. They don't get too close to condemning him for doing it. They just point out how, that's his humor. Well, I'll tell you what, man. It is refreshing to see this kind of comedy. It is refreshing to see someone willing to poke fun at everybody and take everybody out and spare no punches and just be themselves. It is so refreshing to see someone not hide behind a veil of wokeness. I miss George Carlin. I was a kid watching his shows, being told by the hippie liberals why he was the man, how he was a champion for the left, for free speech and all these things. And I grew up on that, and I respect him, because I know George Carlin wasn't a bigot. He was making a point. And Dave Chappelle is the same. He's making a point. For his criticisms of white people, his jokes, I should say, I shouldn't call them criticisms, to the woke left. It is all deserving, and no one should be spared the stick of comedy. We all deserve getting a pie in the face every now and then, right? That's what I've said that to other people. Because if you think you're above everyone else, that's when you start abusing that privilege, that you have a right to never be offended or upset. Sorry. And so I'm just so happy to see Dave Chappelle come down like Thor with that axe, slam it into the ground, boom, like a pie in the face to everyone. Good. Knock these people down a peg or two. And don't get me wrong, as I stated, he spares nobody. Everybody gets knocked down a little bit. But at least those of us in this space that respect comedy are sitting back saying, look, we're used to it. We appreciate it. It's about time someone stood up and made an offensive joke. And you know what? Like I said, man, it's like he's daring him, but I'd love to see them go after Chappelle because he does not care. Bravo, man. I'm surprised Netflix did this because Netflix has some pretty woke and bad shows. This was incredible. A++, 5 out of 5. Some dry moments for sure. Some really shocking stuff that I couldn't believe he said. But you know what? It's a comedy bit. It's a comedy bit. So good. Good on him, man. I just had to do this video. After seeing these articles and watching the video, I just had to make something praising this, and I cannot recommend it enough. You need to go see it if you haven't already. Stick around. Next segment will be at 4 p.m. youtube.com/timcast. It is a different channel, and I will see you all there.